Two things to say about They Are Billions before we begin. It is still technically early access and has been for ages, so buyer beware. They are tuning and adding features fairly regularly, so it appears to be still supported and awaiting an actual full release. Two, despite having spent over 100 hours, yes, 100 hours, playing They Are Billions, I have not technically won a single game, even on the easiest setting. There has to be a way to win, and several times I've gotten right down to the wire, but like a 40-year-old virgin, never quite clinched the deal. People do win, it is possible, and I am bad at this game, especially bad. So account for that, and that leads us to. Now, despite being really hard, it's clearly addictive, and that's because it has the basic formula just right. At each survival game start, you are dropped into a randomly generated map with various natural occurrences such as lakes and forests and hills, and these act largely as obstacles or choke points, both for you and the infected, read zombies, that are all over the landscape. The camera focuses slowly on you and your town hall, as if peering at the settlement from a large orbiting base. You've created your doomed ant farm, and are now watching gleefully from orbit as it tries in vain to win and then gets crushed. Constantly. The aesthetic and world are compelling and very original, a steampunk-style level of technology in a world that is just slightly adrift. There will, in time, be a story mode, and various elements of that are here. However, for now, there are only survival-style games, which are essentially horde tower defense timed against the clock. The basic premise is to explore the map as best you can without being overrun by zombies you stumble into and collect a few resources that are scattered while slowly building up your settlement and adding new buildings that gather more resources and allow you to grow, which lets you build more structures to gather resources which allow you to grow ad infinitum. The genius comes in that due to random maps, resource drops, and the scattered locations of undead hordes and even undead villages, no two playthroughs are the same. It's here too that one flaw presents itself, as the maps are randomly generated. Whilst your start point is often fair-ish, things can rapidly go downhill on a bad map, or whether a few resources immediately accessible. Still, that too adds to the fun. Life is like a promiscuous woman's child. You never know what you're going to get. From the start on, your playstyle is up to you. Do you turtle out slowly, grow in exploring your immediate surroundings, or do you throw caution to the wind and expand as fast as possible in every direction? Maybe you use a spearhead and just go through all your forces in one mope, hoping to carve through. Whatever happens, you'll be constantly juggling the few resources at play: wood, stone, iron, oil, power, food, and settlers. The complex interplay between all of these and the requirements to have each building, most need at least one settler to work them and want different amounts of power and other commodities to build. As you push through, you can buy upgrades for buildings, research new technologies, and as of recently, build wonders, which are huge resources-intensive structures that add massive amounts of food, power, or other resource once built. So the early game is one of exploration and planning, frequent pauses, juggling slim resources, and keeping the random roving groups of the undead at bay. To keep it interesting, the game randomly throws hordes at you every 20 or so days, so you'll want to ensure you've got a front line of sorts, proper defences, and various technologies and soldiers in play to help you defend your stupid bunch of ready-to-die morons who have populated the planet on your behalf. At around the mid-game, the pace can slow a bit, as you're often waiting for just enough resource to accrue before buying that next great thing or so on. However, a good player, i.e. not me, is likely already clearing out the map and sending a large army out of their camp to pass by all four corners of the world. This helps clear out random puddles of undead and can lead to some nice resource loot drops when you find and destroy a whole undead city, and indeed it makes the random horde waves much easier, as they don't grab little groups of wandering undead and add them to the pile en route to your soft, weak, stupid little base. The graphics of second-by-second gameplay are fun, and it feels weighty and punchy when your forces go into combat against a huge group of the undead or several waves come crashing into your well-created defences. That nice serotonin-filled feedback loop certainly keeps you coming back for more abuse. Well, it does in my case. You'll often get sidetracked doing one thing and following your army around the map or watching a cool building go up, and you forget you need to be attending to lots of else things at the same time. Often you miss some minor thing, perhaps one wall is slightly less tougher than another, or you figure you can get by with just a few troops in that one guard tower or so on, and then BAM! A single small pod of undead gets in by the back door and smash your village to pieces. Once the undead break a house or structure, which is surprisingly fast, they turn everyone inside into infected, and the numbers multiply at an incredible rate inside your city. This means nested defences, walled areas and the like are a necessity. Think rings of steel, or in my case, rings of spaghetti. Indeed, on a good run, you'll feel like you have this crappy world by the balls, and then all of a sudden, the billions actually turn up. If you're set to survive at 150 days, the easiest mode, then around the time final massive wave shows up, and they are billions. From every crevice, crack and fissure, millions of CPU melting, frame rate chugging undead pour into the world and straight at your colonists. And it is this stage I always lose. Good players will have built multiple nested walls, choke points, traps, and massive killing fields to destroy the stinking hordes, but I simply never got it quite right. Once or twice I got very close, real close, but then I got beaten back, and I still came back for one more try. Normally I hate games that are artificially difficult, but with then random maps and so many combinations of strategies to figure, I try one day, I'll lose my winning virginity, and then I'll show all those billions that it wasn't a bad idea to start a tiny fragile colony in the middle of an entire world of infected, hostile beings with little or no resource. And actually, most of the time, there's a sick Thanatos instinct that makes me enjoy watching my carefully constructed walls fall, my men scream and die, my cities collapse and ruin. After all, some men just want to watch the world burn. Even in its unfinished form, I'd say They Are Billions is worth a buy. That said, I wouldn't pay more than £15 for it, or the dollar equivalent in its current state, as it's not everyone's cup of tea. When the extra modes are added and the extra content is finished and the game itself is actually completed, lots of it already is, it'll be worth about £30 or dollar equivalent, or less. Until then, pick it up on sale.